He came home in high spirits, unaware that within minutes his life would shatter at the seams. Sitting at the kitchen table, his wife met his gaze with a strange look of determination and uttered a sentence, after which the reality he knew ceased to exist. 23 years of love, loyalty, struggles, and victories, all leading up to hearing, "Tonight I want to go on a date with another man." Each word seared into his mind like a burn. This wasn't a dream, nor a scene from a cheap movie. It was their life, breaking into pieces right before his eyes. What do you do when the woman you were ready to give everything for declares that loyalty no longer defines your bond? When the memories of shared years suddenly become a heavy anchor, making it hard to breathe? And most importantly, how do you stand your ground where the end seems inevitable? Greetings, my dear viewer. Please tell me which city and country you're watching this video from. Maybe you're watching me from a small town or a gigantic metropolis. Write about it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. It will make me very happy. Let's get started. Tyler Whitman was thrust into a waking nightmare he could never have foreseen. After more than 20 years of marriage, his wife stunned him by announcing, out of nowhere, that she planned to see other men beginning that very evening. Sitting at the kitchen table, Tyler held a glass of scotch in his hands, but for 10 minutes, he left it untouched. He simply stared ahead, paralyzed by shock and a searing ache in his chest that refused to subside. No amount of medication could quiet the turmoil in his stomach. Tyler had heard tales of wives making similar proclamations, but he'd always dismissed them as far-fetched. How could any woman expect her devoted husband to accept her openly dating others? The notion was inconceivable to him. How could someone be so indifferent and self-absorbed toward the person who cared for them most? It all transpired on a Monday, despite the fact that his workday had been completely uneventful, almost enjoyable. Tyler left the office in high spirits, humming to himself as he stepped into his home. His good mood lingered as he spotted his wife at the kitchen table, a glass of red wine beside her, and his favorite whiskey waiting. After setting down his briefcase, he poured himself a hefty drink and sat across from her. "What's going on, Lana?" He noticed a faint, sly smile tug at her lips as she met his gaze. There was a strange glint in her eyes that made Tyler shift uncomfortably. "Would you say I've been a good wife and mother all these years, Tyler?" Her tone was measured and calm. Tyler furrowed his brow, taking a moment to ponder. She knew he preferred to think before replying. "Yes, I think you have." "Don't you think I deserve a little recognition for that?" she continued, her voice as steady as ever. Tyler considered her question. "Should I be given an award for fulfilling my role as husband and father? Why are you asking me this, Lana?" His patience frayed, and he snapped, his irritation coming through. "Tonight, I want to go out with another man," she announced, her voice steady and serene. Tyler was thankful to be seated. A wave of nausea crashed over him, his thoughts wiped clean as he tried to process her words. Lana studied him, almost sympathetically, nodding with deliberate slowness. "Yes, another man, Tyler. It's been 24 years since I've been with anyone else. I've dedicated myself to you and our family, but I think I'm owed a night to try something different." She elaborated. She wasn't looking for romance, just something new, strictly physical. "I'm 47, Tyler. I know I won't look this way forever. I want to take advantage of my options while I still have them." His jaw hung open in disbelief. He absorbed her every word, but some part of him still clung to hope that she was joking. He didn't even have to ask. Lana seemed to read his thoughts and gave a slight, confirming nod. "Unbelievable," Tyler muttered, watching her as she rose and headed upstairs to get ready. When she returned, she was striking, wearing a tight black dress with a daring cutout at the chest, no bra, the hem just skimming her thighs. Her makeup was subtle. She never needed much to enhance her looks. Her long blonde hair was pulled up in a sleek ponytail. The effect was dazzling, and Tyler couldn't help but stare. "You're not leaving the house like that, Lana," he finally said, rising to his feet. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but you can't do this and still expect to call yourself my wife." Lana's smile grew sharper. "You won't ruin my night, Tyler. You might act tough, but we both know you won't walk away from this. Who else could you find like me?" She pressed on. "You know the kids would blame you for tearing the family apart. Stop being weak. Let me have my fun and we'll go back to growing old together. You love me, Tyler. You hate the idea of being alone, while I'd still have options." A car horn sounded outside. Picking up her purse, Lana moved toward Tyler, leaning in to kiss him goodbye. He recoiled, as if burned. Her expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "I'll be back." "Maybe," she said, and walked out. As the door closed behind her, Tyler stood frozen. The realization that his 23-year marriage might be unraveling, settling on him like a heavy weight. He stood there, barely able to accept what was happening. Lana didn't even glance back as she stepped out. It's a sad reality, backed by research, that attractive people enjoy privileges. They make friends easily, draw attention, even receive better treatment. For Lana, these advantages had been evident since her teens. Her popularity soared at 13, the moment she blossomed. She quickly learned that a smile and a flutter of her lashes could win over nearly any boy she desired. If one resisted, she simply amped up her charms and got her way. Tyler, like so many before him, was instantly captivated. His family had just moved to town before 8th grade, and the first time he saw Lana, he was hooked. Tyler had always been an athletic standout, well-liked throughout high school, and eventually found the confidence to ask Lana out. She accepted, and the two started dating, their relationship carrying on until midway through their junior year. That was when Lana decided to end things with Tyler, opting to go out with Logan Ellsworth Jr., a star player on the football team. At the time, Tyler was just 5'4" and weighed a mere 110 pounds, while Logan towered over him at 6'2" and was a solid 190 pounds. Although the breakup hurt, Tyler understood there was nothing he could do. Lana's looks set her apart from nearly everyone else at school, and few guys could compete with her. Once she started dating Logan, she moved effortlessly into the social circles reserved for the most admired students, while Tyler faded into the background. He still hung out with a close-knit group and dated a few girls, but he and Lana never spoke again after their split. When their paths did cross in the hallways, Lana acted as though Tyler was invisible. Initially, Tyler was bothered by Lana's coldness, but as time passed, he got used to it. By senior year, he'd grown a couple of inches and put on 40 pounds, becoming more attractive and athletic, though Lana still seemed out of reach, as she did for most. For prom, Tyler brought a date who was pretty, even if she didn't turn many heads. That night, Tyler and his date took their relationship to a new level and slept together for the first time. Meanwhile, Lana was crowned prom queen alongside her date, who was named prom king. After graduation, Lana and her date spent the night together as well. It was common knowledge, however, that Lana had lost her virginity before prom. She had a reputation for making circumstances work in her favor. Any guy who dated Lana quickly learned that being physically close to her was always part of the deal. After high school, Tyler went on to Michigan State University to study accounting. Throughout his time there, he dated a handful of women but never got serious with anyone. Lana attended Central Michigan University for marketing and went out with a number of guys in college, including a marketing professor, whose grade she successfully negotiated from a B to an A thanks to their relationship. Years of being admired had made Lana exceptionally savvy when it came to both romance and social maneuvering. By coincidence, both she and Tyler ended up finding jobs in Grand Rapids after graduating. About a year later, Tyler was out at a crowded bar and grill with coworkers one Friday night when Lana walked in with two friends. Wearing a striking short green dress with a plunging neckline, she drew all eyes in the room, though she herself seemed unbothered by the attention. Capturing a crowd's notice was second nature for her by then. "Who is that absolute knockout?" Sean Walters blurted out to the whole table. Without missing a beat, Tyler responded, "Let me introduce you, Lana Smith, the so-called goddess herself, and once my girlfriend back in middle school." His co-workers turned from Lana to Tyler, some of them gaping in disbelief. A co-worker, surprised, asked, "Wait, you actually know her?" Tyler, uncomfortable under the scrutiny, winced. "We dated when we were about 14. Once high school started, she acted like I didn't even exist," he said quietly. "So, any wild stories from those days?" one of the women teased, causing everyone to laugh. The laughter caught Lana's attention, and for a moment she tried to place the familiar face among the group. Lana and her friends took a table nearby, and Lana found herself facing the table where Tyler sat. "Why don't you go say hi?" Sean Walters prodded. "Careful, Sean, you're practically drooling," joked another co-worker, Cameron Grayson. Tyler just shook his head. "She ignored me all through high school. I doubt she'd even remember who I am now." The others at the table seemed to agree. While Lana ate, she kept sneaking glances at the man across the room, trying to remember where she'd seen him before. Suddenly, she snapped her fingers and pointed. "Easy, Lana," one of her friends warned. "Pointing at strangers in a restaurant could get you into trouble." Lana brushed it off. "I'll be right back," she said, standing up. "I want to say hello to an old friend." With that, Lana made her way to Tyler's table, smiling brightly. "Tyler, it's so great to see you," she greeted him. Tyler rolled his eyes at his co-workers before turning to Lana with a polite but distant smile. "Hey, Lana. Good to see you too," he answered. As he stood, Lana stepped in, put her hands on his shoulders, and kissed him lightly on the lips. Their colleagues were stunned, and Tyler was visibly taken aback. Noticing his surprise, Lana flashed a sly grin. She knew she was playing a game Tyler couldn't win. "Come on, I want you to meet my friends," she said, taking his hand and leading him over to her table. Tyler ended up spending most of the evening with Lana and her group. Before leaving, Lana took Tyler's phone, put her number in it, and saved his contact information too. She found his cool, almost indifferent attitude toward her intriguing. It was something she wasn't used to. Although he was polite during their conversation, Tyler never focused on her any more than on her friends. Even when Lana kissed him again a few more times, Tyler never truly responded in kind. When Tyler showed up for his shift on Monday, his co-workers at the bar immediately peppered him with questions about the stunning woman he'd been seen with. Their jaws dropped when he confessed he'd only spent an hour at the bar before heading home alone. "She's incredible, but let's face it, she's out of my league," Tyler admitted with a weary sigh. "I'm not interested in making my life more complicated than it needs to be." That sense of unease crept back a few nights later, this time in the parking lot after closing. He spotted her waiting by his car, and despite his internal grumbling, Tyler couldn't ignore the way she drew him in, her outfit somehow even more revealing than before. "Why didn't you call me, Tyler?" she asked softly as he walked up. As he took in Lana's appearance, Tyler struggled not to stare, feeling like a starving man confronted with a feast. Her low-cut top left little to the imagination, and her skirt barely covered her thighs. Tyler barely managed to bite back a curse when she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him deeply. Acting on pure instinct, he held her close, his hand inadvertently brushing against her underwear as her dress slid upward. Their kiss grew heated, with Tyler's briefcase forgotten on the asphalt as he gripped her hip, neither of them caring who might see. When they finally broke apart, Lana quickly adjusted her dress, concealing her lingerie, while a couple of co-workers gawked before hastily driving away. Afterward, they went out to dinner at a quiet place on the edge of town. Throughout the meal, Lana kept tugging at her dress, a sight that made both Tyler and their server grin. Though he tried to keep his guard up, Tyler found himself powerless in the face of Lana's allure. All he could do was hope he wouldn't let her down that night. The first time he saw her undressed, he could only mutter to himself in disbelief. To Tyler, Lana was everything he'd ever wanted in a woman. If this was his one shot, he didn't want to lose sight of what truly mattered. Later, as they lay together, content and breathless, Lana gazed at him with a sly smile. "I made a huge mistake years ago," she admitted quietly. "You're amazing, Tyler. If only I'd realized it sooner. Just imagine all the time we wasted," she whispered. Lana knew what she wanted. She could spot quality when she saw it. Tyler might not have turned heads the way she did, but he was handsome, fit, and going places, and, she discovered, he was a natural lover. In hindsight, Tyler sometimes wondered if she was just thinking out loud. Despite his doubts, mostly about how she viewed herself, their relationship grew stronger. Her looks were obvious to anyone, but Tyler came to love the person beneath the beauty. "I bought a ring, but before I proposed, we needed an honest conversation about what fidelity meant to us," Tyler recalled, as they sat down to talk seriously. "What's in the past is done. I feel the same, but I need to know where things stand between us. I want us to be completely exclusive, no exceptions. If that's something you can't promise, I have to know now," he said, placing a small black box on the table. Lana held his gaze, then glanced at the ring box. "I would never be unfaithful to my husband. Not ever," she said with conviction as Tyler opened it. He remembered that promise for years. Lana didn't seem to view her past as cheating. She'd always been upfront about it. But Tyler knew better. She wanted him to accept it on her terms. If he couldn't, maybe he hadn't truly let it go. Over time, Tyler realized Lana had countless opportunities to stray, but to his knowledge, she had always remained loyal, just as a loving wife should. She was more than a perfect 10, perhaps even beyond that. By his own measure, Tyler considered himself a 6 at best, always aware that others would notice her. "Unless she cheated and I never found out, she's been the perfect partner for 23 years, Tyler reflected. He knew he should feel grateful for that time. Yet, somehow, gratitude wasn't enough. For him, "I love you" meant forever, not just 2 decades. Lana, he noticed, attracted admirers constantly. Even women sometimes hit on her. She wasn't just attractive, she was extraordinary, in a league of her own. Whenever Tyler joked about his wife, he'd say God must have been showing off the day he created her. Early in their marriage, Lana told him about every unwanted advance, insisting on honesty. Eventually, though, Tyler assured her he trusted her judgment. He only wanted to know if anyone got too persistent so he could intervene. As for Tyler, women rarely approached him. His wedding ring was like armor. If he found himself talking to another woman, he'd mention his wife and kids almost immediately, shutting down any hint of flirtation. He didn't realize how effective this habit was at keeping women at bay, or occasionally making things awkward. Lana never really understood just how much her husband's loyalty discouraged potential rivals. Their nearly flawless marriage lasted 22 years, until Rachel Garcia joined Lana's PR firm. Rachel was a whirlwind, dark hair, striking eyes, and a figure that drew attention wherever she went. Despite her talents at superior solutions, Rachel chose to stay on as Lana's loyal assistant, even though Lana was already known for being the most alluring woman in the company. At 42, Rachel had been married for 15 years, but readily admitted her dissatisfaction. She regaled co-workers with graphic tales of her affairs, never sparing the details. "So you've really never cheated since you tied the knot? You seem so steady, but it's hard to believe you never want more," Rachel remarked one afternoon as they sipped coffee together at work. "I'm not denying that temptations exist, But betraying Tyler isn't something I could ever do, Lana insisted. More and more, she noticed how, when she went out, men's gazes slipped past her, settling instead on younger women. The realization left her uneasy, and she found herself wondering if she still possessed the allure she once had. Let's imagine something for a moment. What if your husband gave you the green light? What then? Rachel teased, her voice playful but genuinely interested. Lana hesitated, taken aback by the question as if the possibility had never crossed her mind. Her thoughts raced. If Tyler actually said yes? That would be a whole different story, she conceded, a mischievous smile flickering across her lips. Have you ever thought about just asking him? Rachel continued, her tone gentle but encouraging. If this really matters to you, isn't it worth talking about? The idea seemed to catch Lana off guard, sparking a brief glimmer of intrigue before doubt settled in. He'd never agree to something like that. Not in a million years, she said with certainty. Rachel persisted. So am I supposed to do all the hard work for you? Just be honest with him, and go after what you want. She pushed Lana to convince Tyler, to show him that loving her meant trusting her enough to let her have this freedom. Rachel argued it wasn't a question of love. Lana's heart was still with Tyler, and always would be. Meanwhile, the rumble of a car outside roused Tyler from his half-sleep. It was well past 3 a.m. He glanced at the nearly empty bottle of Woodford Reserve, then called out as Lana stepped inside. "Did you have fun tonight?" he asked, his gaze fixed on her. Her hair was disheveled, makeup gone, clothes creased. She looked more defiant than remorseful. "I could ask you the same." "You didn't need to wait up," she retorted. "I'm heading to bed." "You might want to as well, but not with me," he replied, his voice frosty. Lana shot him a look of annoyance before heading upstairs. Tyler poured himself another drink and turned his attention back to ESPN. The only sound in the house was the low murmur of the TV. He spent the night dozing in his chair, a dull ache gnawing at him. By morning, he was up making breakfast. He heard the shower running above. Usually, Lana would come downstairs wrapped in a robe, her hair up in a towel. Today she appeared fully dressed, every detail carefully arranged. "Did you leave any breakfast for me?" she asked, her tone flat. "There's coffee. If you want food, you'll have to make it yourself. Since you're all set for the day, maybe now's a good time to talk," Tyler replied, his voice even. Lana had prepared herself for a confrontation, expecting anger, something she felt she could manage. His calm made things unexpectedly complicated. "Aren't you even curious about last night?" she asked, almost in a whisper. Tyler sensed a hint of arrogance in her voice. Did she truly expect him to crave details about her infidelity? He shook his head. "What I want is to understand where you see us going from here," he said quietly. "As I told you yesterday, I want to be with other men for a while. It's only physical, no emotions. You're the only one I love, but I crave the excitement of something different. You're wonderful, but I want to try new things before it's too late." For more than 20 years, the thought of cheating never even crossed my mind. "Now, I want to experience the unknown," Lana said, her voice almost matter-of-fact. "Once I get it out of my system, we'll grow old together, and I'll make it up to you every day." Tyler listened in silence, calmly spreading jam on his toast, stunned by how detached she sounded while talking about the future of their marriage. Questions crowded his mind. "So, you're just looking for variety? Am I not enough?" His words were shaky. He didn't wait for a response. "So, you want us to open the marriage, just for a while, and then go back to being exclusive? Does that mean I'd be allowed to see other women too?" Lana barely suppressed a laugh. Picturing her reserved, loyal husband dating felt absurd. Still, if that's what it took to get his agreement, she'd accept it. Of course. I'd expect it to be purely physical for you too, she replied. Tyler's expression showed uncertainty. Lana sensed there was more behind his hesitation. What about Rachel? Would you want to go out with her? She's a friend from work, she'd be open to it, Lana suggested, knowing Rachel would play along to help her keep Tyler while exploring other men. Tyler looked genuinely lost. A part of his younger self might have wanted to accept, but the man he'd become couldn't bring himself to do it. Thanks, but no. That would make me just as guilty as you were last night, he said quietly. Lana's face hardened at his words. I am not a cheater, she snapped. If you say so, Tyler replied with composure. He responded with a seriousness she hadn't expected, but I remain firm in my position. You'll come around eventually, sweetheart, because I have no intention of backing down, she retorted with defiance. Late Monday morning, Rachel entered Lana's workspace and immediately picked up on her friend's foul mood. Ignore that close-minded jerk, Lana muttered, shutting the door as Rachel came in. It's just ridiculous. He actually turned down a date with you? Rachel asked, genuinely surprised. I didn't even realize I was on the table, but it doesn't matter, Lana replied with a nonchalant shrug. I mean, who in their right mind would refuse this? She added, gesturing confidently at herself. So, how did your night turn out? Did you have a good time? Or did Tyler mess it all up? Rachel pressed, curiosity in her tone. It was fantastic. Jonas really knows how to treat a woman, Lana said, her excitement clear. It's been ages since I've been with anyone new. The change was more than welcome. Now, who should be my next target? Lana mused aloud, prompting the two women to break out in laughter. Oddly enough, Lana found some comfort in the fact that the divorce documents hadn't surfaced right away. Communication between her and Tyler had dwindled, so she didn't bother asking about his intentions. What Lana didn't realize was that Tyler, too, was hesitant to officially end things. Secretly, he was hoping Lana would come to her senses and abandon her quest for other lovers. If she called off her escapades, he believed he could find it in himself to forgive her, and perhaps they could move on together. His spirits were faintly lifted when Lana called off a date the following week. Despite continuing to sleep in separate bedrooms and barely speaking to one another, he saw it as a flicker of hope. But then, the next Friday, Lana appeared once again, flawlessly dressed and ready to go out for the night. Are you seeing the same guy, or is tonight someone new? Tyler asked, irritation leaking into his voice. Tyler, we've talked about this. This isn't about you, Lana responded. I just want to have some fun before I'm too old to enjoy it. It doesn't mean I care about you any less. I just need some excitement in my life, you know? Men are always after me, and sometimes I want to say yes. But I always end up coming back to you, she tried to clarify. And what if I don't want you to come back? Tyler shot back, anger simmering. I can't just stand by while you enjoy yourself with other men. That's not who I am. I can't simply sit here and watch you parade through every guy around. Maybe I could forgive you once, but twice? That's asking too much. It's not just hurtful. It's betrayal. If you're going to spend your nights out partying, count me out. I'm not sticking around for that, he said firmly. Oh, please, she mocked, waggling her fingers at him. You know you'd regret losing me. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, he said. Just a week earlier, Tyler had asked his lawyer to get the divorce papers ready, though he still hoped he wouldn't have to go through with it. He intended to call Lana first thing Monday, but before that, he wanted to speak with their daughters. That evening, he called Jenna, who was 21, and Morgan, 19. Neither daughter seemed particularly shocked by what he told them. Yet after hanging up, he suspected Jenna had long expected this outcome. So you saw this coming and kept it to yourself? He pressed during the call. Didn't I deserve to know what was happening? Dad, it was a no-win situation for me, Jenna replied quietly. No matter what I said, someone would be upset. Plus, it's her body. You can't control that. If she wants to— Don't finish that sentence, Tyler interrupted. I know this puts you in a tough spot, but don't tell me she has total freedom just because it's her body. We made vows, and marriage means her body isn't only hers anymore. I get that, but Jenna began, only to be cut off again. I understand, honey. I'm sorry, he told her gently. It's okay, Dad, she whispered. Lana got home at 2 a.m. that night to an empty house. She was back an hour earlier than usual, but looked more disheveled than before. Gavin Emerson was a broad-shouldered, commanding man, perhaps the most intense lover she'd ever experienced. By the end of the night, she felt bruised from his grasp, but also exhilarated. Looking back on it, the evening had been wild, and she considered seeing Gavin again. But that Monday, Lana was blindsided at work when she received the divorce papers. Humiliated and devastated, she broke down in tears and ran to the bathroom, where Rachel found her soon after. You had to know this was coming, Rachel said softly. He just wants you to feel what he's feeling. Men can be spiteful when they're hurting. Give him a week to cool off. He'll come crawling back, Rachel consoled her. Pulling herself together, Lana returned to her office, picked up her phone, and immediately called Tyler. How could you do this to me at work? I know you're hurting, but I deserve better than this, Tyler, she cried into the phone. After more than 20 years, this is what I get for being the one to open up our marriage? If you were finished with me, couldn't we have ended it like adults? I don't want a divorce. I don't want this to be the end. I still love you, she sobbed. I love you too, he said, his voice cold and distant. But every time you're with someone else, my love for you erodes a little more. My love isn't bottomless, Lana. There's a limit. For a long time, I believed that was the case. Perhaps both of us misread what was really going on. Even though Tyler protested, Lana continued to pursue the divorce. Her lawyer insisted on scheduling marriage counseling, and Tyler participated only because he felt he had to. When they arrived for the session, neither of them expected to find Lucy Kendrick waiting. Studies show that most marriage counselors aim for reconciliation, usually leaning toward the wife's perspective, the counselor said, opening the discussion. Let's start with something straightforward, Mrs. Whitman. Did you ever tell your husband that you planned to see other men for several years? Tyler fought back a smile while Lana was visibly taken aback. Yes, I said that, Lana admitted quietly. That's my choice. I don't need him to do it on my behalf. This doesn't alter anything regarding your marriage, the consultant said abruptly. That's all the information I require. Sorry for the inconvenience, Mrs. Whitman. I'll inform the court and bring this charade to an end. Lana was left struggling for words. My dear, if you thought you could treat your husband this way and expect me to support you, you're mistaken. You ought to be ashamed, but you clearly aren't. Honestly, I find your actions disgraceful, Ms. Kendrick added. Over the following month, Lana tried contacting Tyler every day while he settled into a small apartment nearby. He ignored her attempts to reach him, every call, every message. Eventually, Lana persuaded their daughter to get involved, hoping she could help mend things. Dad, you still love her. If she agreed to stop seeing other men, would you consider taking her back? Morgan asked during a phone call. She's still with them, even after I filed? Tyler's voice quivered with hurt. The silence on the line was all the answer he needed. After that, Morgan stopped trying to intervene. Tyler was amazed at how quickly word of their split traveled, especially among the single women he knew. Several women at work, including those who were friends with both him and Lana, offered their sympathy. Tyler knew not all their concern was purely out of friendship. Chloe Martin, a longtime friend of Lana's, reached out to offer her support, but her interest was apparent. Tyler was surprised by her candor since she'd never indicated anything before. I never would have considered dating a friend's husband, she told him. But now that you're available, things have changed. I'm interested. Does that shock you? Thanks, but I'm technically still married, Tyler replied. Chloe, I can't start anything until it's finalized. Maybe it's old-fashioned, but I won't cheat. You're such a straight arrow, Tyler. That's part of what I've always liked about you. When you're free, would you take me out? Chloe pressed him. Sure, Tyler answered. But I'd hate to cause any drama between you and Lana. You've been close for years. I appreciate you thinking of that, but I'm not about to let tradition keep me from something I want, Chloe replied. Maybe I'll give you a call when it's all settled, Tyler joked. Chloe, who was petite, athletic, and had long, dark hair, had always caught Tyler's attention. Her interest surprised and flattered him. True to his word, Tyler contacted Chloe the day the divorce was finalized. They had dinner and then went to a jazz club on Saturday. Sensing his nerves, Chloe remarked on them. I feel like a teenager, Tyler admitted. It's been over 26 years since I went out with anyone besides Lana. Are you telling me you've had the same condom since before you met Lana? She teased. Should I have brought one? Tyler laughed, shaking his head. Honestly, it never crossed my mind. I'm clearly rusty. When the evening wrapped up, Chloe kissed him softly, leaving both of them pleased with how it went. Tyler promised he'd call again. On the day the divorce was final, Tyler removed his wedding ring, not expecting it to make any difference. But it did, at least to the single women around him. Some co-workers noticed his bare finger and started flirting more openly. The extra attention was unfamiliar to him. One afternoon, he confided in his closest work friend about how things had changed. There are so many attractive women here. How did I never notice before? Tyler remarked. You were the poster boy for a henpecked husband, Ryan Archer replied. You were so loyal to Lana that you didn't even realize anyone else existed. She's beautiful, but you let her control everything. That might have been part of the issue. She always tested boundaries. Sometimes that's good, but you were so used to her that you were invisible to other women. No one would have made a move. In the first month after the divorce, Tyler went on 4 dates, 2 of them with Chloe. Tyler hadn't crossed any intimate lines with the women he'd met recently, though physical connections weren't exactly at the forefront of his intentions. Yet, by the close of his second month as a single man, the initial excitement hadn't waned, and he ultimately wound up spending the night with not 1, but 2 different women. Meanwhile, his daughters, who, since the split, had gravitated toward their mother, kept hearing her brag about how effortlessly men flocked to her, unlike their father, who seemed to struggle just to keep anyone around, never mind finding someone serious. Moved by a mix of pity and curiosity, the girls decided to surprise their dad with an early Saturday morning visit, around 2 months post-divorce. Tyler, still groggy and hardly thrilled about being roused at 8:36 a.m., was especially caught off guard because he hadn't spent the night alone. Sabrina was a vivacious 25-year-old, the daughter of an old acquaintance, who'd asked Tyler to accompany her to a wedding because she needed someone dependable. The evening had exceeded both of their expectations, leading them back to Tyler's apartment. As Sabrina slept soundly in his bedroom, Tyler, still wrapped in his bathrobe, answered the door to find his daughters standing there, faces beaming, hands full of breakfast takeout. "What's this all about?" he said, blinking in surprise as they breezed inside. "Good morning, Dad. Think you can fit your 2 favorite daughters in for breakfast?" Jenna grinned, already unpacking the food onto the table. After exchanging hugs and quick kisses, Tyler ushered them into the kitchen, where they'd barely started on their bagels when Sabrina, dressed only in one of Tyler's half-buttoned shirts, strolled out, clearly unaware of her audience. "Oh, didn't realize we had guests, sweetheart," Sabrina said nonchalantly, helping herself to the coffee pot. "Your mom said you run things around here." The girls blushed, caught off guard, as Sabrina settled next to Tyler at the table. Sabrina, these are my daughters, Jenna and Morgan," Tyler clarified, gesturing between them. "We were just digging into some bagels and lox," he added, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. Sabrina just laughed, the motion making her shirt gape as she brushed against Tyler and claimed the seat at his side. Conversation picked up, but the mood shifted when Jenna brought up Tyler's recent encounters with Lana, his ex. For the first time all morning, Tyler's easygoing demeanor faded. Until then, he hadn't thought twice about Sabrina's presence, despite knowing she was more exuberant than he was used to at 48. "To be honest, Dad, we figured you'd be missing Mom by now," Morgan admitted softly. "She says she still cares, but I just assumed she'd be out there living it up after you left. Sometimes I thought I was the one holding her back." Jenna, unable to hold it in, blurted out, "She's hooked up with 2 guys at the same time, in your old bed no less." Sabrina laughed at this, while Morgan shot her a warning look. "She's not crazy or anything," Morgan insisted. "But honestly, do you even know how many guys she's been with since you separated?" "Those 2? I already knew about them before I moved out," Tyler replied. His daughters blushed and averted their eyes. "Let's say she's with a couple of new guys each month for 10 months. That's 20 men. If she upped it to 3 a month, that's 30. 30? Sabrina echoed, raising her eyebrows. If looks could wound, the girl's glares would have done the trick, but Sabrina just grinned. "Hey, don't blame me if some women can't hold it together," she teased. Tyler tried to steer things back to normal. "Let's not ruin a perfectly decent weekend with this, okay?" he said, hoping to ease the tension. "Sorry," all 3 women apologized in unison. "So, are you 2 together?" Jenna asked Sabrina quietly. "You barely look older than me. Dad said you were his age, but I don't think you're about to become my stepmom. Friends, right?" "He's a solid guy," Sabrina answered. "He was my +1 at the wedding, and he's honestly adorable. Did I mention he's a total sweetheart?" Jenna smiled. "Yeah, we know, he's pretty great. Just a bit clueless at times, and, well, he's not bad looking for someone who could be my dad." This time Sabrina went red, and Tyler joined her, grinning sheepishly. "Don't forget, love, we've got that lunch with the newlyweds' families at noon. I should shower and grab some clothes from my place," Sabrina reminded him, rising from the table. The girls exchanged knowing glances, rolling their eyes as Sabrina left. Later that day, Jenna recounted the morning's events to her mother. "She's my age, Mom. It wasn't some random fling. They actually seem to enjoy each other. I really don't think he's coming back to you." "He probably just got lucky being a friend's date," her mother retorted. "She doesn't seem the type to settle, just the sort who goes through men. Your dad's sweet, but he's no Casanova." Jenna pushed back. "You always make everything about you. Was it all really worth it?" For a fleeting moment, Lana's composure broke, exposing the weariness behind her confident mask. Outwardly, everything looked great, but inside, she couldn't bring herself to tell her daughter the truth. Her new relationships felt empty, and she'd never imagined Tyler would be the one to actually move on, rather than spending his nights longing for her. Lana was so wrapped up in her own concerns that she barely noticed the qualities that made Tyler such a catch. He was attractive, intelligent, established in his career, and consistent. Traits that drew the attention of women well beyond her age group. She had always known that Tyler hadn't wasted time moving on after their split. He had even dated Chloe, a mutual acquaintance. Rather than withdrawing after the divorce, Tyler seemed to flourish. He was now seeing a vibrant, much younger woman, someone not much older than their eldest child, and behaving with a newfound youthfulness that left Lana both surprised and somewhat disbelieving at the number of women now interested in him. When Lana discovered that Chloe was seeing her ex, she initially said nothing, assuming it was a one-time date taken out of pity. But after hearing about their second evening out, she felt compelled to address the situation with her friend head-on. With her voice raised, Lana confronted Chloe. "I thought our friendship meant something. Aren't friends supposed to look out for each other? Shouldn't we, as women, be supportive?" Chloe, completely unruffled, responded, "Lana, Tyler never treated you badly. Honestly, he's a wonderful guy, Exactly the sort of man I want in my life. Why shouldn't I give myself that chance? There's no shortage of women hoping for a chance with him. He's respectful, charming, and, let's be real, he's great in bed. If he asks, I won't turn down a date. Why did you ever let him go? Lana could only stare, stunned into silence, suddenly aware of just how much she might have misjudged her situation. The fallout from her past decisions seemed to gather momentum, and each solitary night in her empty house made her regret them even more. Meanwhile, Tyler had adapted to his new circumstances, even though he never expected things to change as they had. He would have been content to stay in the familiar routine of his previous life, but now, unexpectedly, his world had shifted for the better. His career remained rewarding, his social life was busier than ever, and he enjoyed meeting women from different backgrounds and ages. These new relationships often turned intimate. Tyler wasn't seeking another serious commitment, but he embraced the excitement and openness that came with his newfound freedom. He was beginning to realize that fulfillment wasn't tied to being married to someone attractive. Enter Maya Griffin. With her distinctive silver hair streaked with purple and pulled through the back of a Cubs baseball cap, she was hard to miss. Her Cubs jersey flattered her, and her light-washed jeans looked as if they'd been tailored just for her, defying her 60 years. Even in the packed stands at Wrigley Field, Maya stood out. Tyler Whitman, once married to Lana and now single, was among those drawn to her. They ended up together at a Cubs game during a weekend trip to Chicago, a city Maya adored. She and Lana had worked side by side for over 15 years. I'd seen Tyler at a few office parties back when he and Lana were together, Maya recalled. He was always friendly and charming. She knew about Tyler and Lana's divorce a couple of years earlier, and she herself had lost her husband in a car accident 5 years before. In all that time, Maya had only been on a single date before she finally asked for Tyler's phone number. Tyler remembered Maya just as clearly. Elegant, memorable, someone you didn't forget. When she proposed having dinner together, he agreed without hesitation. That had been a few months ago. Their first evening was spent at a fine restaurant, followed by a night at the Philharmonic, tickets courtesy of Maya. The evening ended with a gentle kiss outside her door. Their next get-together was a Saturday hike, and Maya's laughter rang out each time Tyler needed a break. Hiking had been something she and her late husband did often, and Tyler realized he had overestimated his own stamina. Maya was in impressive shape for her age, her striking gray eyes and toned build catching him off guard. Later that day, a passionate moment on her couch led to the two of them making love on the living room floor. Tyler was fascinated by Maya's mix of sophistication and genuine warmth. So when he brought up the idea of a weekend exploring Chicago for their third outing, Maya immediately agreed. On that first date, Maya was upfront. She didn't intend to keep their connection a secret from Lana, but she also wouldn't go out of her way to mention it. She pointed out that Lana had already told their co-workers that the marriage ended due to irreconcilable differences. Tyler repeated the version he'd shared with others, that Lana had been unfaithful with multiple men, though he never elaborated. Since his marriage ended, Tyler had formed a number of meaningful relationships, and he took pride in his thriving romantic life. Several women admired him, and some hoped their connection would deepen. Tyler himself was learning to trust women again and imagined that one day he might marry again. Lana's perspective, however, had changed. She'd once told him she wasn't interested in anything lasting. Her priorities were purely physical. Although she still attracted attention, she wasn't looking for the long-term partnership many of her friends were seeking. This fundamental difference between them became particularly challenging for their daughter Jenna, who was in the midst of planning her wedding, grateful in part to her father's now happy remarriage. When Lana suggested that both she and Tyler attend the ceremony on their own, without bringing dates, to keep things simple, Jenna was enthusiastic and brought up the idea over lunch with her dad. Tyler, however, wasn't pleased by the proposal. "Whose suggestion was this, yours or your mother's?" he asked, his tone sharp. Because I fully intend to bring a date with me. I'm footing the bill for this celebration, and I fully expect to enjoy myself with my date. Did you end up taking dance lessons for your own wedding as I did? It's actually a sweet experience. No protests, Jenna. It's obvious she's angling for control, acting selfish to tilt things in her favor. I'm not willing to attend my daughter's wedding alone, and I'm sorry if that upsets you. If you're not prepared to let her know, then I'll do it myself. She's welcome to come solo or invite whomever she wants, but I'll be showing up with my own guest, Tyler stated with resolve. Understood, Dad. I'll handle the conversation with her. I get your perspective and I'm looking forward to seeing you dance, but maybe think about inviting someone closer to your own age? I can do that, Tyler replied with a grin, but don't even think about missing the dance Chloe and I have planned. Despite some disagreement over the sea green dress Tyler picked for her, Chloe Martin was the one by his side that day. Since he was the father of the bride and would be dressed in a tux, Tyler thought it only fitting that Chloe have a new dress for the occasion, and he was happy to pay for it. You'll also need matching shoes, he said, still grinning. Escorting his oldest daughter down the aisle was both an emotional and complicated milestone for Tyler, just as other dads had described, and he recognized what a genuinely happy moment it was. Together, he, Chloe, and his children celebrated with abandon, dancing well into the night. There was only one uncomfortable incident. His ex-wife arrived with her own companion. Tyler didn't mind, but the man spent most of the evening glaring at Tyler and later behaved inappropriately toward several women, clearly intoxicated. At Jenna's urging, Lana quickly ushered her date out, embarrassed by his antics. In a brief confrontation in the restroom, Lana accused Chloe of stealing Tyler, but Chloe calmly explained that Tyler and Lana were already divorced before she came into the picture. Lana didn't argue further, allowing Chloe to leave without more drama, not wanting to disrupt her family's special day. Some months after the wedding, Morgan visited her dad, visibly troubled. Tyler observed her for a while before breaking the silence. "All right, Morgan, spill it. What's on your mind?" "You seem on edge tonight." Morgan blushed and struggled to find the right words. Tyler picked up on her discomfort. "Dad, you know how Mom sometimes talks about trying to get back together with you? That maybe she'd win you over if she stopped seeing other men? Did you two ever, get close again?" Her voice faltered. "My personal life isn't really your concern, young lady," Tyler replied curtly. "But for the record, no, I haven't slept with your mother. Why are you asking?" "It's just, she has an STD, Dad," Morgan admitted, eyes lowered, that she'd overheard Lana telling her friends she'd contracted syphilis. At first, Tyler was stunned. Then, a sense of sorrow set in as Morgan glanced over at him. "So you're telling me this because you're worried about me?" Tyler guessed. "Normally you'd let all partners know so they can get checked out." "I didn't realize that, Dad. I just want you to be safe," Morgan said. "I know Mom still dates around. Some of my friends have mentioned she's gotten wild. It's strange when your own friends point out your mother's flaws." Not long after, Tyler received a disturbing call from Maya, who was worried both for herself and because of what Morgan had said. "If you're wondering if anything happened between me and my ex, the answer's a definite no," Tyler assured her. "I understand your concern, Maya, but I can't control what my ex chooses to do. To be honest, scandal is probably the mildest term I've heard about her lately." According to Maya, Lana's behavior had become public gossip. She seemed to care less and less about discretion as her single life continued. Lana even used her health scare as leverage, hoping to win Tyler back once she got a clean bill of health. She still harbored resentment that Tyler had initiated the divorce, something she never truly believed he would go through with. She thought he'd never managed to find anyone else in her league. Her plan might have succeeded if Tyler hadn't drawn interest from other women. Lana was so certain of her own allure, she couldn't imagine Tyler being attracted to anyone else. "Sure, he's attractive. But don't these women realize he's not on my level?" she complained to her friend Rachel, while waiting for their dates over margaritas. Rachel encouraged Lana's choices, not grasping how deeply Tyler felt about things. Expecting him to pine for her after their breakup, Lana and Rachel kept tabs on him. But soon, Tyler's romantic life was every bit as lively as hers. If Lana was honest with herself, she might see that her ex-husband seemed far more fulfilled than she was. Tyler actually enjoyed his relationships, while Lana stuck to her familiar circle but didn't find genuine connection. After her diagnosis, she experienced a long stretch without anyone new. Maybe, she thought, it was time to try to reconcile with Tyler. When Tyler got her call, he was caught completely off guard. He hadn't heard from Lana in nearly 2 years. One of their daughters must have given her his new number. He never explicitly told them not to, but he'd made it clear he had no reason to talk to Lana anymore. "Hey, Tyler," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "I think we should talk." "I thought we agreed not to speak until after Morgan's wedding," Tyler replied. "Since that hasn't happened, let's just keep things quiet." "You haven't changed, Tyler. Still pretending you don't care. But I know you want me back," she pressed. "And you're as persistent as ever, Lana," he shot back. "You still behave as if everything revolves around you." "Tyler, hear me out. I get that you're still hurting, but my feelings for you were genuine. Maybe I should have kept it from you instead of confessing, but that would have been even more deceptive," Lana admitted. "It was still betrayal, Lana. Giving me a warning didn't make it any less heartbreaking. You just assumed I'd always stick around. Is that truly how little you think of me?" Tyler replied. "I know you see yourself as the ultimate catch, maybe even more than that. But honestly, looks aren't everything. I've come to understand I don't need to let your presence define my identity. Over these last few years, I've realized I'm not just the man married to the attractive woman. There are women out there who actually value me for myself and are willing to give real affection. Life has actually treated me well lately. So why would I go back to someone so self-involved, who never really respected me, and who, no matter what she claims, never loved me as deeply as I loved her?" "Loved, past tense," Tyler concluded. After ending the conversation, he turned toward the woman beside him. "Want another drink?" he asked Chloe. Eventually, Chloe found her soulmate and married him, but Chloe and Maya remained important parts of Tyler's world. He cared for both, and while he never remarried, he cherished their presence. They each loved him in their own way, and were happy with how things stood. Years later, both Chloe and Maya attended the wedding of Tyler's second daughter, Morgan. Lana, on the other hand, wasn't thrilled, especially since she showed up without a date. She complained to Morgan, but her daughter was unsympathetic. "Besides me, Jenna and her family, Chloe and Maya are the closest people Dad has," Morgan told her mother. "They actually care about him and put him first. Not everyone can say that. You could have stayed with him, but you chose to leave, chasing after something more thrilling. And for what? Because you were scared of aging and convinced yourself he'd never actually leave? That he'd always remain, no matter how you treated him?" But Tyler, for his part, found a new sense of joy. Even if it wasn't what he originally planned, he walked away from a situation he could no longer tolerate. Lana's life wasn't lonely or miserable. She still had a magnetic charm, and women like her rarely find themselves without admirers. Men continued to be drawn to her, and she had no shortage of brief relationships. Still, none of them ever became serious. In hindsight, Lana regretted ever telling Tyler she was leaving. She was still shocked that he actually let her go. How could she have been so wrong about everything? In her eyes, she was perfection, and he was just average. Things were never supposed to end like this. While this story ends here, the next one promises even more excitement. Let's move on together. At precisely 8:17 in the evening, the silver tray arrived. I remember this detail because I watched the time change on my phone just as the room service attendant tapped gently on the door adjacent to mine, a door I'd never touched, but one whose every noise had become intimately familiar to me. The attendant's polite, oblivious voice announced, "Room service," never suspecting he was about to deliver catastrophe. Her laughter floated through the wall, the same sound that had once made me feel 10 feet tall as she walked down the aisle 13 years ago. "We didn't order anything," Jessica objected, irritation barely hidden. "It's complimentary, ma'am. Happy anniversary," the attendant responded, following instructions he couldn't possibly understand the weight of. An uneasy silence hung in the air. Moments later, laughter filled the room again, deeper this time, shared by 2 people. "Someone's made a mistake," came a man's voice. Ethan, the name that appeared again and again in the detective's reports. "There's no anniversary here," he insisted, but the attendant stood his ground. Hotel policy required that special deliveries be unveiled in front of the guest. I pressed my ear closer to the wall, picturing Jessica's familiar gesture, a dismissive flick of her hand I'd seen over countless dinners. "Fine, let's get this over with." "Maybe it's another one of David's silly gifts. Probably those chocolate strawberries again," she quipped. The cover was removed. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. As documents slid out onto the pristine bedding of a luxury Malibu suite, the very hotel that claimed to be booked solid when I tried to reserve a room for our anniversary, my 13-year marriage ended, not with a dramatic argument, but with the gentle rustle of paper laying bare every secret. 3 months earlier, I was still David Whitaker, a husband, a father, and the reliable man everyone could count on. I can recall the exact instant everything shifted. We were at breakfast. The kids were munching cereal before school. Jessica, glued to her phone, smiled at something only she could see. "Something for work?" I asked, nudging Noah's lunch closer. She nodded with barely a glance in my direction. When Noah spilled his juice, I cleaned it up instantly, while Jessica remained absorbed in her phone. As I wiped the table, I really saw Noah, and for the first time, I acknowledged the anxiety I'd long suppressed. His eyes were green. Jessica and I both have brown eyes. I used to joke, he must get them from Grandma. But that morning, as Jessica scrolled through her messages, I finally admitted to myself what I had refused to consider. Those eyes didn't belong to anyone in our family. Not long after, Jessica announced she needed a girls' weekend to recharge. I didn't object. In fact, I packed her favorite suitcase, the one with the hidden zipper, where I carefully placed a GPS tracker. I wasn't looking for a confrontation. I just needed the truth. "Take your time," I told her at the airport, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek. "You're the best," she replied, her eyes darting away from mine. For once, we're on the same page, I thought. The truth catches up with each of us differently. For some, it's a stray smudge of lipstick. For others, a message never answered. For me, it was a single social media post. Jessica's friend Angela, supposedly traveling with her, checked in at a rooftop bar in Nashville. Jessica had insisted they were headed to Denver. That night, with only the sound of the kids' breathing filling the house, I opened the tracking app and watched as the blinking dot came to rest at the Ocean View Hotel in Malibu, the very same hotel that turned me away for our anniversary. "We're completely booked until next year, sir," the reservations agent had told me 6 months earlier. But now, Jessica was there, and she wasn't alone. Before I said anything to her, I needed more than just suspicion. I needed evidence. About her affair, about Noah. I ordered a DNA kit. I swabbed Noah's cheek, pretending it was just a check for a fever, and sent the sample off in a plain envelope. The results came a week later while Jessica was supposed to be at work. Sitting in my parked car, I read the verdict. The man tested was not the child's biological father. No tears came, nor did anger. Instead, I called Mark Devons, an old friend who had become a private investigator. "I want the full story," I told him. "Every meeting, every lie, every hotel." 2 months and $12,000 later, the dossier was finished. Photos of Jessica and Ethan Williams, her company's VP of marketing, meeting at hotels in 3 different states, credit card bills for jewelry I'd never laid eyes on, text threads exposing a relationship that spanned 2 years. Even the answer to the question I dreaded most, Noah's paternity. "He thinks the boy is his," Ethan wrote in one exchange. "Will you ever tell him?" "Why bother?" Jessica answered. "David's the perfect dad. He'd love any child and never doubt it. That's why I married him." Reliable David. The words stung more than any betrayal ever could. So, when Jessica told me about her retreat to find herself, I already knew exactly where to find her. I booked a room at the Ocean View Hotel under an alias, making sure it was right next to hers, and paid cash to stay off the radar. I told the front desk staff a story about planning a surprise anniversary getaway for my wife. The receptionist, clearly charmed by my tale, handed me the key card with a knowing grin. "How romantic," she whispered. "We'll keep your secret safe." That first night felt endless. I sat in the dark, alone, pressing my ear to the wall as I listened to their arrival, bursts of laughter, the dull thump of luggage, the unmistakable pop of wine being opened. What followed were noises that felt both unfamiliar and agonizingly close. Sounds I hadn't linked with Jessica in ages, private, tender, and deeply unsettling. But the worst part wasn't their laughter or intimacy. It was the muffled conversation that drifted through the thin walls afterwards. "When will you tell him?" Ethan's low voice, unmistakable even when barely audible, slipped through the silence. "After the weekend," Jessica replied, her words soft but determined. "I'll claim I've had some sort of personal epiphany. David will understand. He always does. That's his specialty." "And Noah?" Ethan pressed on. A long pause. "Noah stays with me, of course. Nobody needs to know David isn't his biological father. We've been together long enough, and his name's on all the paperwork." "He won't try to keep Noah?" Ethan asked. Jessica let out a short, bitter laugh, the same tone she'd used when ordering food earlier. "David? He won't fight, he'll be shattered, sure, but he's always so logical. He'll prioritize the kids," she continued. "That's who he is, the mediator, the steady one. Isn't that why you chose him instead of me?" Ethan's words were tinged with resentment. "I was 23 and scared," Jessica answered quietly. "You weren't ready to settle down, and David made me feel safe. But I've never stopped loving you. You know that." I sat frozen in the darkness, the glow from my laptop illuminating the plan I'd meticulously crafted since I'd gotten the paternity results. They thought they knew who David Whitaker was, a dependable doormat, always swallowing his pain for the sake of peace. They were about to meet someone different. The next morning, I kept up my act, working from my hotel room and keeping tabs on them with the tracker I'd hidden earlier. Their day unfolded in lazy luxury, lounging by the pool, ordering lunch to their room, an afternoon so raucous I had to put on headphones to drown them out. At 6, I set my plan in motion. I called Jessica's credit card companies, using personal information only a spouse would know, and reported every card as lost. I sent the completed divorce papers to my lawyer, instructing him to file immediately. I logged into our joint bank account, which I'd already emptied except for the minimum balance, and moved everything into a private account. Then came the most delicate move. I called Melissa Williams, Ethan's wife, the social media influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers and a carefully crafted family image. "Mrs. Williams, we haven't met, but our spouses are well acquainted. I have something you need to see before I speak to them tonight." She didn't say much at first. Her silence said enough. She suspected. "Send it all," she said at last, her tone cold and steady. I did. At 7, I arranged for a silver tray to be delivered to their room at 8:15, making sure I had time to leave before it arrived. I tipped the staff member generously and made it clear. The tray was to be opened in their presence. Then I stood by my door, suitcase packed, waiting for the chaos that would close this chapter of my life. "What the hell is this?" Ethan's voice boomed, followed by the rustling of papers. "Jessica, what is going on?" I could imagine her, hands shaking, panic in her eyes. "Did David? Are these divorce papers? And something about Noah? Oh my God, Jessica." A staffer's concerned voice broke in. "Is everything all right, sir, ma'am?" "Get out! Leave!" Jessica screamed. Something crashed into the wall. I picked up my suitcase and headed for the elevator, leaving their disaster behind. Downstairs, the receptionist who'd checked me in gave me a bright smile. "Did the anniversary surprise turn out well?" she asked. For the first time in ages, I found myself smiling back, genuinely. Better than I ever imagined. As my rideshare pulled away from the hotel, my phone lit up with frantic messages. Jessica calling, texting, Ethan's number appearing too. "David, what's happening? Please call me. We need to talk. This isn't right. You can't just do this." I powered off my phone and watched the shoreline disappear as we sped toward the airport. I'd braced myself for heartache, anger, maybe regret. But what I felt instead was entirely new, a deep, unmistakable sense of freedom. All the suspicion, the doubt, the constant wondering, it evaporated. In its place was clarity. I refused to be anyone's fool again. The consequences hit faster than I'd anticipated. By the time my flight landed, Melissa Williams had already shared an emotional, teary video on Instagram, confronting her husband's betrayal without directly naming Jessica. Her followers quickly figured it out, connecting the dots and revealing Jessica's identity within hours. "Standing in my truth," Melissa wrote, a phrase that would explode online and reach 3 million viewers. Jessica returned one afternoon to find that her key no longer worked. All her belongings had been carefully packed into boxes and left in the garage, alongside a formal notice from my attorney. The letter made it clear that, according to state regulations, I was well within my rights to secure the house, now legally under my name, because of the quitclaim deed Jessica had signed weeks earlier, believing it was simply another form for Noah's summer program. Out on the grass, she shrieked so loudly that someone from the neighborhood eventually dialed the police. I watched from inside, knowing our children were safe with my parents, far from the drama erupting outside. When the officer arrived, he addressed me with a measured tone. "Your wife claims you misled her into surrendering her ownership of the house," he explained. I calmly presented the notarized documents. "I have no problem handling this legally, officer. As you can see, everything is above board. My wife and I are divorcing, so her distress makes sense." The officer meticulously examined the papers, then returned them to me and addressed Jessica, who was crying, her makeup running. "You'll need to bring this before a judge, ma'am." Jessica sobbed. "He set me up. He's not the person you think he is." In that regard, she was correct. Ethan's world was the next to collapse. After Melissa's supporters inundated his company's online platforms with questions about his family values, anonymous tips about his affair with his subordinate, Jessica, landed in human resources. An internal investigation soon uncovered multiple breaches of ethics policies. Within days, Ethan was dismissed. Their plans unraveled overnight. Staring down the prospect of a bitter divorce and a tarnished public image, Ethan abruptly severed ties with Jessica. No more clandestine meetings, no more empty promises, just an abrupt silence, punctuated by a restraining order filed by Melissa. With her face plastered across gossip sites and labeled in stories about the influencer's vengeance, Jessica soon found doors in our profession slammed shut. The emotional troubles she once exaggerated for attention now swallowed her whole. She moved back in with her mother, who began phoning me regularly, voicing regret over Jessica's choices. "She always thought she was better than you," her mother confided one evening. "I warned her. She was throwing away the best thing in her life." "Thank you for saying that," I replied quietly. "But I've moved forward." The custody fight was brief and decisive. Jessica's unstable behavior, well documented in various ways, along with proof of her ongoing dishonesty, left the judge with little doubt. I was awarded primary custody, with Jessica restricted to supervised visits twice each month. At our final court appearance, she approached me in the hallway, her appearance frail and her former assertiveness gone. "What about Noah?" she whispered. "You know you're not his real father." For the first time since everything fell apart, I met her eyes. "Noah has been my son from the very beginning. That won't change, no matter what DNA says." "You're just doing this to hurt me," she accused. "No," I replied. "I'm making sure he and our daughter are protected from your instability." "You engineered this from the start," she said, a hint of her old resolve flashing. "So cold, so calculated. I never truly knew you." I managed a bittersweet smile. "Funny, you might say the same about yourself." She reached out, her hand briefly touching my arm. "We could try again. For our children's sake. I realize now what I've lost, David." For a split second, I glimpsed the woman I'd once loved, the one whose laughter had brightened any room, whose touch made everything seem possible. But that version of Jessica had existed only in my wishful thinking. "Goodbye, Jessica," I said, gently pulling away from her grasp. I turned and walked toward the elevator, where my children waited with my parents. "Daddy!" Noah called out, racing to me, his green eyes, once a reminder of heartbreak, now a symbol of hope, shining with trust. I lifted him into my arms, feeling him nestle close. "Ready to go home, buddy?" I asked, tousling his hair. "Home with you?" he replied. He nodded, resting his head on my shoulder. As I glanced over, I saw Jessica standing alone in the hallway, watching everything she'd lost slip beyond her reach. Our eyes met one last time, but I felt no malice or satisfaction, only a calm understanding that things had resolved as they needed to. The elevator doors closed, carrying us away from the past and into a future free from betrayal, a future without the woman who'd underestimated my resolve to protect those I love. 6 months later, life found its balance. The children flourished in therapy. I'd been promoted at work. Turns out, handling a personal storm with grace made an impression. Though our new house was smaller, it felt warmer and more genuine than the old one ever had. One morning, as I was packing lunches, Noah tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, are you happy now?" he asked. I knelt down, meeting those green eyes that no longer haunted me. "I am," I answered. "Are you?" He gave a solemn nod, his expression grave. When we saw Mom on Saturday, her distress was impossible to miss. Tears streamed down her face as we said our farewells. "Sometimes," I whispered to him, "people cry because they regret the paths they've taken. Still, loving someone doesn't grant us the power to reverse their decisions. Do you think she'll ever come home and live with us again?" he wondered aloud. I shook my head gently. "No, she won't," I answered quietly. "But she'll always be your mom." He mulled over my words for a while, then suddenly wrapped his arms around my neck in a tight embrace. "I'm so glad you're my dad," he murmured. Holding him close, I replied in a hushed tone, "There's nothing else I'd rather be." That night, after the kids had gone to bed and silence settled over the house, I sat alone on the porch, a glass of whiskey cradled in my hand. My phone buzzed, a message from a woman I'd recently gotten to know at the school's parent group. We'd planned our first date for the weekend ahead. "Can't wait for Friday," she texted. "No pressure, just hoping for some easy conversation and maybe a few laughs." I smiled as I typed back, "Sounds perfect." Setting my phone down, I felt a wave of clarity wash over me. The person Jessica had married, a steady, risk-averse man, had vanished in the wake of her betrayal. What remained was someone changed, tougher, more reflective, and far more complete. Raising my glass, I offered a silent toast to the silver tray that had signaled everything would be different. It hadn't merely closed the door on a marriage. It had ushered in a new existence. One founded on honesty, a sense of worth, and the realization that the truest response to heartbreak isn't resentment or retaliation. It's deciding instead to grow into the person you were always destined to become. Our story has come to an end. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the way I tell stories, head over to my channel and check out my other videos. May the force be with you. See you soon, my friend.